right, well, that was great.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Mr. Shades show. We just saw the 2019 reboot of Hellboy.
Is it a reboot or just a different? It's
People are calling it a reboot,
I don't know,
but I wouldn't really. I don't know. Reboot.
I think they're doing the movie, but they're just doing their own take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if this is going to be a franchise.
Is the Lord of the Rings a reboot of the
1978 animated?
Yeah, or like the Soviet Hobbit, which is a movie that exists and is hilarious.
And Leonard Nimoy's song, but anyway, we were getting off topic. Hellboy, what did you think of 2019's Hellboy?
I very much enjoyed it. Like I said, I definitely felt like they could have benefited from another half hour of just dialogue or anything like that, because there's a lot of like, all right, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
moments. Like, it was fast paced because there's so much they had to cram into it.
Yeah.
Which, fair enough.
Lots of exposition is the
I'm
like
okay with this.
Like the dialogue.
I didn't know that part about Hellboy's origins. That part where he's obviously we're in spoiler territory here. Where he's
probably going to be spoiling this thing.
Descendant of King Arthur, the demon.
Yeah,
that one caught me off guard.
Yeah, that one was weird, but I'm weirdly okay with it. Yeah, I'm on board with that concept.
It's just outlandishly but nut wild that it works.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the main plot of this is a witch from the 5th century is pieced back together by a hogman and is essentially trying to destroy the world and trying to enlist Hellboy's help.
Well,
that is as simply
put
as I can, as simple as I can put it.
They did a good job of kind of making her less, like, obviously she was definitely power crazy, but there was a good portion and they kind of hammered
Played
it down.
by Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, of course. It was phenomenal. But they definitely played a lot of I'm losing my train of thought here. Saying Mila Jovovich.
That's fair.
Yeah. But like they definitely played her up as the do a second counter to how long I get this point out. As the purveyor of downtrodden souls. Like she wants to bring all the
that was
monsters
actually
forward.
kind of interesting
Dynamic, yeah. And they never really she's obviously power crazy, but she never said she didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that makes sense. She might have just viewed herself as the patron saint.
Yeah, been like a mass manipulator. Essentially.
Yeah, kind of. Something like worse. So there was a little bit of.
She manipulated Hellboy pretty well.
Oh yeah. Very much so. Like he started using the wheeze right the fuck away.
Yeah.
Ian McShane, phenomenal casting.
As
much as I love John Hurt.
Yeah.
As Professor Broom.
Oh, they're both good.
They're both
in different
really
ways.
Good.
In different ways.
Speaking of casting, how did you feel about David Harbour?
I liked him as our protagonist, as Hellboy.
He's got an uphill battle against Ron Perlman, and I love them both.
I
love Ron Perlman's Hellboy. He definitely feels like a mean old son of a bitch, but I think Harbour's portrayal fits the comics pretty much to a T.
Yeah, Harbour's portrayal is a little bit younger, unseasoned kind of character. He's a little more aloof, a little more reckless. He doesn't really. He's not overconfident the way Ron Perlman's was.
It makes sense for him to be
cocky.
It makes sense for him to be as moody as he is, because that's just who he is, as opposed to whereas Perlman's. There were some moments where I'm like, no, you're clearly smarter and more balanced than this. Why is this a thing for you?
The idea is that David Harbour's Hellboy is essentially a teenager in a fully formed adult's body is the idea, I think.
Yeah.
They were going for. And honestly, I really liked this idea. I really liked this portrayal of Hellboy. His line delivery was great. His jokes were always funny.
There were some moments in the supporting cast. I'm like, ooh, you could have went for a retake there, but okay. But there was nothing I had Harbour was trying, and it showed.
The direction on this, which was Neil Marshall,
surprisingly,
was pretty good. His action scenes were pretty good. They were You always knew where it was. Always well lit. You always knew what was happening. You always followed a center point of view while like everything else was happening. You stayed grounded, so you knew where everything was in relation to each other. It was really well done.
And there's even this bit at the end where they try to do as much long take. They do a really sneaky job of hiding a cut when there's the camera hits the light and it kind of blinds it out for a second. It's real good. But even in like where it's kind of not even the camera itself is shaky and janky, but when there's a lot going on and the camera's moving like a motherfucker, they do enough to let you know that there's something there, but it's not so much that it just looks this jumble of shit.
Yeah,
like
it's not.
It's a hard line of balance,
but it's enough that you know, like it's enough to keep you off balance, but enough to know where everything is still.
Yeah.
Which is one thing I actually kind of appreciated was in the one scene. This is going to spoil it when Hellboy goes to visit Baba Yaga. Up to that point in the film, it's been shot pretty well and like. All the angles are correct and stuff, and then you get to the Baba Yaga's house, and you get a couple Dutch angle shots that are just like enough to let you know that
to emphasize that this place is fucking weird.
Yeah. I really liked that kind of touch. I really liked how the movie was lit in certain spots. Like a lot of it was pretty like bland lit.
Yeah.
But the scenes with Baba Yaga were really stand out to me.
Yeah.
That last action scene, like the last action scene of the movie, was really interesting and like really a different like purples and blues. It was really cool.
They're going for the franchise. BT Dubs.
Yeah,
the host going for franchise.
They really are.
Fair enough. Like.
I mean, go if you're only going to make one movie, might as well go for it.
Yeah.
I don't really care for sequel baiting as much, but like with this movie, it was clear that they had a ton of fun making it, and they don't care if they win or lose.
Yeah.
And if they do get to make another one, they know where they want to take it, which I can appreciate. Where a lot of movies
they just sequel bait for the sake of sequel.
they'll sequel bait, but they don't know where they want to go with the sequel. Or you get movies that.
Universal's Dark Universe is a great example of this.
Yes.
Just assuming they have the franchise on lock and then making the first movie like, oh, let's just establish this whole thing instead of make a couple of standalones. And like everybody wants to be Marvel without doing what Marvel did, which was putting in about 6 years worth of work.
Yeah. So like I was saying, this movie goes for the sequels, but it knows where it wants to take them. But it's not like, oh, here's a standalone movie, full story, full stop. But the studio intervention says, let's make more. Yeah. It's not like that. It's like they clearly know what they want to do.
Well, in a comic movie like that thing too, you definitely get a significant degree of there's so much stuff to cover, so naturally there's going to be tie-ins and shit.
Yeah. So that's kind of our look on the main character of Hellboy and stuff like that. Side characters, what did you think of them? So, Professor Brutenholm.
Strong. Awesome. I mean, it's Ian McShane. The man, even if the man doesn't give a fuck, it's still great.
Alice. What did you think of her?
She was good, but there was the moments where her and David Harbour are playing off each other are great.
Yeah.
But there are moments where she has to deliver a line, and it's like there's really one standout. I can't remember what it was, but it's really oddly flat considering what's happening in front of her. I'm like,
yeah, I noticed that too.
One?
I don't remember what
out are you right now, sweets.
But it was really weird.
It was really like
jarring. It felt like they ADR'd it in.
It definitely was ADR, but it was like ADR'd, and they're like, all right, like they noticed that, and it's the audio didn't work out, so they like it was like 5 minutes from being final edit. So like, fuck, get her in here, just read the line. All right, go.
Yeah.
Like clearly they were. Like that was probably the thing they'd be out of time on if I had. But I mean, that was the really one standout. Everything else seemed pretty smooth.
My one issue with her character, it felt like she was supposed to be like the grounding element to you. Like she's supposed to like ground you, but she's already part of this paranormal universe.
She's a fucking spirit medium who can legitimately talk to ghosts. Yeah, you're not really grounding that too much.
So like she felt like the character that you're supposed to like project yourself onto.
She punches the spirits out of people.
In certain spots, like when you first meet her and her reacting to things is like she's supposed to be. It's like half and half. Like she's supposed to be in this universe. and know the paranormal side, or she's supposed to be a normal person.
Yeah.
And then reacts to random things that, like, shouldn't you know this already? So there are moments like that where she kind of flip-flops in between.
Flip-flops as much as the plot needs her to.
Yeah. What about our, I forget what his actual name is.
Damn.
Yeah. What did you think of him?
I liked him because he had this very tough guy thing going on, but he actually pulled it off, which a lot of people in movies who try that don't.
He had this no nonsense.
There is one moment where he's coaching people, and I don't know if he's saying it for Hellboy's sake or he's just doing it because it's in the script, but he gives the hand signals and then verbally goes, move on my command, whereas...
Well, I think that was because, like, he was giving the hand signals to his men, and then Hellboy steps up in front, so he's, like, trying to assert dominance.
Yeah, that might be it.
That
so I'm
might
be
what they were going for.
But it was just like, you know this.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay.
There was that moment.
I enjoyed it. The little twist where he's this jaguar from Belize. It's really crazy when you see it out of context.
Yeah, but it's weird to say that.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it works.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. We're saying all this stuff, and it works in the movie.
Yeah, it does.
I do appreciate...
it was a very obvious twist, but I still enjoyed it.
Because the whole movie, you see him, like, freaking... Like, he starts twitching, and then he, like, juices himself up with, obviously, some kind of Wolf's Bane type situation. I do appreciate, in the flashback explaining him... They do, like, a full-on homage to Predator.
Yeah, for a second it's like, oh, he fought a Predator.
Because, like, it hard cuts to the jungle, guys in military uniforms.
Guys hanging upside down.
Bloody. And it's like, I appreciate that.
What you're referring
to. Okay. We get that. That's
a good one, yeah. What was it? Oh god. As far as the other supporting characters, I mean,
a lot of them were just there was so many.
There's a lot of throwaway,
like.
But I mean,
the whole.
Like there was effectively it was like, Hellboy, Alice,
Daimo,
the Witch,
and Hogman.
Broom and Hogman, and those were the main parts.
Yeah.
Everything else was just like this kind of side character.
They throw in so many characters and kill them fucking 2 seconds later. Like, they throw in so many characters and they're dead.
Well, even when they're putting in the credits, like, I think, like, 7th in the billing was King Arthur, who was in there for about the flashback 30 seconds at the start.
And all he did was get off a horse, unsheath Excalibur, and cut the witch twice. That's all you saw of him, actually, in the movie. And he was 7th billed.
It's like...
or something.
Okay, I mean, it makes sense. You have your strong central cast, and everything else is them to interact with, so, like... Fair enough.
So our main characters felt like fully fledged characters. They weren't really throwaway like certain movies of this type would do.
Like pretty much the entire cast of Captain America: The First Avenger. I mean, it makes sense because he was frozen for a while, but it's like I don't. Yeah,
most of those characters in. Like, Tommy Lee Jones was in that movie, and I barely forget him. I barely remember him. But, so these characters are really good. They have some great moments, great laughs. I was laughing throughout the whole movie.
What did you think about the makeup on Hellboy?
That was really good.
That's like
marketed improvement.
Well, and that's what I thought it was.
But I think that's just the industry moving ahead.
Well, that's what I thought was impressive.
17 years since the first Hellboy movie.
They went ballsy with it because it's like they have him. He's on screen. He's shuffling about, and then the first time you really get a good look at him is he has a spotlight shone on his face. Special effects artists fucking hate that.
Like a literal spotlight.
Yeah.
Which
and it looks great. It looks great under the because there's like these nice textures. It's like okay.
We watched that.
It looks fine.
We watched that first scene. I was sold to the movie. That opening scene where you finally meet Hellboy and all that. I was sold. I was in for the movie.
Breaking his fucking phone. And it's like, okay, he's got a big finger, grabs it with the other hand and breaks it. Like, God, fuck sakes.
I like that. Yeah. That was a great joke. It
just turns out he's just strong. So.
Yeah. What did you think of the CGI in this movie?
There were parts where it was very obviously CGI. I mean, CGI has come to a point where even if it's obvious, it still looks good, but it's still CGI.
Yeah.
And there were parts that were... There are parts that are like, okay, yeah, CGI because doit.
Yeah.
And then there are parts where it's
the quality dips for me.
Like there's a part where he's got a scorpion on his hand, and it's funny because it stings him, and he's like, fire. And it's jarring.
Yeah.
Like, a thing doesn't even cast a shadow, I don't think.
Yeah.
I thought for the first little bit Baba Yaga was CGI'd, but it looks like they went for a mix.
No,
They had the practical effects that was
definitely
amplified.
From chest up, I would say, unless they had like a contortionist and in a green screen kind of thing.
No, I think they definitely feel like they would have a contortionist. Like that part felt practical. I think it was
with
they
touch
did,
up CGI.
Yeah, I think they did a Deadpool, and they had her. Like, they had, obviously, prosthetics and shit like that, and then they had CGI that was added on top of that, which I love, because
I do like when practical effects get just little touch-ups to make it look that much nicer.
Yeah.
But
overall, what are we thinking about the movie? Or what did you think of the movie?
Overall, if you like just crazy ball starts rolling, ball keeps rolling, action, like if you just like that stuff where it just keeps going and going and going until it's over, you'll like this movie. If you like comic book, like you like the Hellboy comic books, you'll like it. If you liked the first two Ron Perlman movies, I would say go in with an open mind. Don't.
Yeah, they're definitely not the same movie.
They're not the same at all. Interesting story though. There was supposed to be a Hellboy 3. That's what this movie Hellboy 3 turned into this movie. Guillermo del Toro was not... I think he walked because he wasn't offered the same level of control, writer-director.
Yeah.
And then he walked, and then Ron Perlman said, well, I'm not going to do it if Guillermo del Toro won't do it.
He's not going to do it because it's a different fucking
Those
movie.
two made that movie.
Yeah, and I'm glad that happened, and we got a different Hellboy completely because that would have just felt terrible.
Yeah, if they redid
if you would have tried to do Hellboy
later.
3 with Ron Perlman without GDT, because he kind of made his own.
Or even if they came back to it all these years later, I love those movies, but I also like this movie for how different it is.
Yeah. It's definitely it's definitely, you could watch both of those movies and okay, well, I watched the same subject matter, but it's an entirely different cinematic spectacle. Yeah.
So what are your final thoughts? What would you say before we get into giving a final score?
Give a rating. I would say that it's definitely like what you said. That once the ball starts rolling, it doesn't want to stop. There was never a single moment where I was bored. There were a few moments where I'm kind of questioning why they were there, but at the same time, I enjoyed it all the same. I'm like, okay, sure, and they definitely they keep throwing things at you to keep people who are looking for different shit entertained. If you're really in it for the humor, there's enough of that to keep you bouncing. If you're in it for the gore and the action spectacles, there's enough of it. It's a good blend. It's definitely a movie made for the comic book fans because there's so many characters in it that I'm as a person who's only kind of has a loose knowledge. I feel like my knowledge of the Hellboy universe is really most people's. I have loose knowledge that there's comics. I've taken a look at some of them, kind of. Yeah. And I've seen the GDT movies. So there's a lot of characters I'm like, who the fuck is that? But that's clearly somebody. Yeah. I don't just they throw that in there. It's not Batman vs Superman levels of they throw in Darkseid and or his minions, and you're like, what the fuck are those things?
Or the KJ Beast, they throw...
Yeah, they just throw things at it, and you're like, who the fuck was that? No, they actually... It's done in a way that it's okay, that's somebody. I don't know who that is, but it's interesting. Yeah. But it's not just so in there. It's a comic book movie for the comic book fans.
It's really not, just on the head. When it's a character that you're supposed to know, they fucking make sure you know.
Yeah, it's a comic book movie made for the comic book fans, but not 100%. Not certain scenes in Batman v Superman. Mm-hmm. What would you rate it, good sir?
Honestly, I'm gonna give this probably the highest rating I'm gonna have to give it a 7. I think there could have been a few things, like you said, the dialogue could have been more dialogue, not just exposition. Some of the jokes could have been reworked in a different way.
Well,
Some of the resolution of the film and the resolution of the opening action scene kind of just happen, and you're like, oh, that didn't feel like it ramped up enough. So there was a few things that they could have tweaked or changed, but overall, still a really good movie. 7 out of 10.
Okay. I will give. I'd say it goes past the point of 6.8, 6.9 to 7 for me because of a single detail, which tells you that the writers were actually really thinking. Because during the opening flashback, when the witch gets chopped to pieces, her blood goes into that tree, and they keep talking about putting the witch's pieces back together, but they don't mention that until like the very end, and you're like, oh shit, right? Because that's what they were like.
You visually see it happen, but it doesn't register.
Well, yeah, like most of the other characters don't notice this, whereas the witch clearly does, and she's like, that's her ace in the hole, and they don't make that like, oh, it's ace in the hole. The other characters don't know. They do that because they don't call attention to it.
Yeah,
and it's really well done. And there's a couple of those moments of writing in that's like, okay, all right. So clearly someone was thinking. So yeah, I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10.
So that's our review, 7 out of 10. Honestly, pure recommendation.
Go see it.
Yeah, definitely worth the money. Probably not like a 3D thing. Don't need to spend the extra money. Just spend enough for a standard 2D viewing.
Yeah, it's right around Aquaman for me. Like it was good. Like it's not something I was I wanted to see. Obviously, it's Hellboy, but it wasn't like, holy fuck, it's gonna be incredible. It's like, oh shit, that was pretty good. Like
you're not leaving disappointed.
No, God no. And it's like, okay, I was entertained, and it wasn't. The only difference was I wasn't expecting it to underperform because it, DC. But whereas that's where Aquaman was surprising. But I'd say it's on about the same level. So pretty solid, yeah.
So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.